All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts. The trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Mental health epidemic. Coming Generation Z supercritical reaction of crash-out riots and revolts. Written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. The man who wears no mask. How to spot the real one in a world of cowards, clowns, and feminist factory-farmed boys. I once watched a man sob in a coffee shop because his girlfriend made more money than him. Not because he loved her and felt pride. No, he wept because he felt erased. Society had told him his value was tied to dominance, to being the provider, to never showing weakness. But the truth, he was never weak. He was gulled, fed a lie so thick it choked his soul, that masculinity is a performance for women, not a forge for character. I've seen men kneel before feminists in classrooms, reciting mantras like toxic masculinity is real, while their sons fail math and get suspended for playing soldiers. I've seen husbands smile as their wives rise, then sabotage their careers with silent contempt because they were never taught virtue, only competition. You think this is about gender? No, this is about truth. And truth doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you're woke or cancelled. Truth is what remains when the propaganda burns away. Like the data, 80% of family court cases strip fathers of their children. 80%. Or that 80% of suicides are men. Yet no one funds male mental health with the same fury they fund pronouns. Or that actual cuckoldry rates, men raising another man's child, hover between 1% and 3%, but every feminist lecture presumes men are fools with no agency. The real abuse isn't in the bedroom, it's in the curriculum, in the court. In the culture that tells boys to apologize for existing while girls are taught to weaponize emotion. I don't care if you're religious, atheist, rich, or broke. If you're a man who values logic over lies, then you know this: the West isn't dying from external threats. It's being eaten from within by ideology that hates excellence, mocks duty, and calls cowardice empathy. This essay isn't a lecture, it's a knife, and I'm handing it to you. You'll learn how to spot the fake men, the chameleons who shift faces like actors. You'll see why most can't stand a woman's success, not because they hate women, but because they were never made strong. You'll discover how schools are turning boys into anxious husks, drugged and docile, while glorifying mediocrity as inclusion. And most importantly, you'll learn what real ambition is, not wealth, not fame, but the daily grind of becoming unbreakable. This isn't theory, this is survival. And if you're still breathing, you're not dead yet. The mask of many faces, diagnosing authenticity in men. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Nietzsche said it, but today's nice guy has no why, only a script written by Instagram algorithms and feminist grievance officers. You know this man. He smiles at waitresses, posts happy International Women's Day memes, and calls himself an ally. But when the Uber driver is late, he explodes. When his brother speaks honestly about women, he shuts him down. He's not nice, he's a bureaucrat of virtue, a moral accountant keeping emotional currency for female approval. This man is not virtuous, he's a performer. And in the modern genocentric marketplace, Performance is rewarded more than principle. Social media didn't create narcissism, it just gave it a stage and a follower count. Every TikTok flirt, every mental health advocate crying about toxic masculinity while cheating on his taxes is auditioning for the same role, the emotionally available, trauma-bonded, feminist-compliant beta. But peel back the veneer, and you find a man with no spine, no center, no self. He is not disagreeable because he's kind. He's agreeable because he's afraid. Afraid of being called toxic, afraid of being cancelled, afraid of being exposed as the fraud he is. This isn't empathy. It's emotional blackmail dressed as virtue. Let's talk about agreeableness, that favorite personality trait of HR departments and feminist dating coaches. High agreeableness in men is sold as emotional intelligence, but in truth, it's often a disguise for low integrity. The Big Five personality model reveals that agreeable men tend to be more compliant, less confrontational, excellent for workplace harmony, poor for standing up for what's right. And here's the reality. Studies on Machiavellian behavior show these so-called nice guys frequently score high on manipulation when pursuing romantic advantages. They're not genuinely kind, they're calculating. They'll twist facts, shower praise, mimic vulnerability, or even shed crocodile tears if it helps them land a date or climb the ladder. And women often respond positively to this. Doubt it? Examine the patterns. Women repeatedly choose men who project confidence and dominance, not softness. Softness is appreciated in pets and loyal followers. What women are drawn to is status, and agreeableness becomes the outfit some men wear to mimic it. The nice guy who finishes last isn't losing because he's kind, he's losing because he's inauthentic. True virtue isn't staged. It doesn't change based on who's watching. Contrast this with Cato the Younger. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon, Cato didn't post a passive-aggressive tweet. He didn't start a podcast. He stood alone against an empire because his principles didn't depend on applause. That's authenticity. That's what's missing today. Marcus Aurelius didn't write the Meditations for Instagram likes. He wrote it as a private journal, a mirror to his soul. He knew character is revealed not in crowds, but in solitude. That's the mirror test. What does a man do when he thinks no one is watching? Does he cheat on his taxes? Does he mock the weak behind closed doors? Does he run a misogynistic forum under a pseudonym while preaching equality in public? I know a man like this. 6-figure salary, TEDx talk on male vulnerability, runs a private Discord where he calls women scene-tease and brags about manipulating divorces. He's not an outlier. He's the prototype of the modern progressive man, a moral schizoid, split between public virtue and private vice, and the system rewards him. Because in the woke economy, saying the right thing matters more than being the right thing. Authenticity isn't some fuzzy New Age concept. Aristotle called it ousia essence. Schopenhauer called it the will, the inner force that drives action beyond appearance. Heidegger called it Dasein, being there, present, unmasked. These aren't abstract ideas, they're survival tools. A man who changes his tone around women, bosses, or social media cameras doesn't have charisma, he has duplicity. And the litmus test is simple. Does he speak the same truth to a woman as he does to a brother? If not, he's not authentic, he's an actor. And in a culture where women have the legal power to destroy men in family court, 90% of custody cases go to mothers, regardless of fitness, where men are arrested for commenting online, where 60% of male suicides are linked to relationship breakdowns, authenticity isn't optional, it's armor. The man who lies to gain approval will eventually lie to himself, and the man who lies to himself is already dead. We've been sold a lie that empathy is virtue, but empathy without justice is manipulation. Feminist social engineering has turned men into emotional puppets, trained to perform empathy while being stripped of rights, wealth, and dignity. Boys are taught to apologize for existing, while girls are taught to weaponize victimhood. The result, a generation of men with high EQ scores and zero backbone. They can cry on command, but can't defend their principles. They'll kneel during the anthem, but won't stand up to a dishonest woman. This isn't progress, it's psychological castration, and the cure isn't more therapy, it's virtue, stoicism, honor. the kind of character that doesn't need validation because it doesn't seek it. When the mob comes for you, and it will, no amount of "I'm a nice guy" will save you. Only truth will. Only courage will. Only a man who is the same in private as he is in public, that man cannot be broken. That man is free. I once believed I could earn a woman's respect by excelling, by building, creating, leading. But when my success stopped revolving around her, when it became mine alone, the warmth turned to frost. That silence, that subtle withdrawal wasn't accidental, it was punishment. And I realized we're not taught to be men in the full sense, sovereign, virtuous, self-commanding. We're trained to be servants with titles. The moment a woman outpaces a man, it's not her competence on trial, it's his role, his purpose, his reason to exist. And that crisis, buried under lectures about insecurity, is the rot at the heart of the modern male experience. The fear beneath the smile, how men react to female success. Women don't hate successful men, says the modern fairy tale. They're attracted to confidence, ambition, achievement. Yet walk into any divorce court, family law office, or suicide support group for men, and you'll find the real story. Women don't hate successful men. They hate challenging success. They love men who serve, submit, and sacrifice. They love men who win for them, not against them. And when a man refuses to kneel, when a woman surpasses him, something primal snaps in the male psyche. Not because he's insecure, but because he's awake. He sees the game, he sees the trap, and he feels the betrayal. The alpha male myth was never about strength. It was a bait and switch. Boys were sold a lie that dominance means control, that leadership means obedience from others, especially women. They were taught that their value is measured in height, jawline, bank account, and who's sleeping in their bed. But when a woman earns more, speaks louder, thinks faster, the system breaks. The man who thought he was the apex predator suddenly finds himself in the zoo, watching the female lion walk past his cage with a promotion, a Nobel nomination, and a speech at Davos. His instinct isn't jealousy, it's existential confusion. Evolution wired men to protect, provide, lead. When women outperform in all domains, the role collapses. No wonder he panics. He's not reacting to her success. He's reacting to his own erasure. Look at the husband who forgets to send the caterer's number for his wife's award dinner. The one who accidentally unplugs her laptop the night before her TED Talk. The man who says, "I'm so proud of you," while his eyes flicker with something colder, something like fear. He's not a monster. He's a man caught in a biological and cultural vice. Ancestrally high-status females were threats, not mates. They attracted attention, diverted resources, challenged the hierarchy. Today, that same wiring fires when his wife becomes CEO. His amygdala doesn't know about equal pay. It knows about threat, and so he withdraws, sabotages, punishes, not out of malice, but survival instinct. The tragedy? He's been set up to fail by a society that tells him to be strong, then mocks him when he feels weak. But contrast this with real masculinity, the father who beams when his daughter wins the science fair. The brother who posts her TED Talk in every group chat. These men don't feel threatened, they feel validated. Their worth isn't tied to domination, but to virtue, courage to stand for truth, temperance to master their ego, justice to uplift others. They understand that a woman's success is not their loss, it's humanity's gain. And yet, these men are disappearing. Why? Because feminism didn't liberate women, it disarmed men. It told them their natural reactions were toxic, patriarchal, misogynistic. It pathologized instinct. It turned biology into bigotry. The feminist lie is simple. Men are insecure because they can't handle powerful women. The truth, men are not insecure, they are betrayed. Betrayed by a system that raises them to lead, then punishes them when women lead better. Betrayed by women who demand equality, then use it to dominate. Betrayed by culture that celebrates female success while vilifying male resistance. Look at the data. Pew Research 2015 found that men in relationships with higher earning women report lower happiness. Not because they're petty, because they're trapped. Trapped in a role that no longer exists. Trapped in a marriage where he's the provider in name only, but the servant in practice. trapped in a world where his son will be 72% more likely to be falsely accused of abuse, 90% more likely to lose custody, and 3.5x more likely to commit suicide. Take the tech founder I knew, brilliant, driven, built a startup from nothing. His co-founder, a woman, was sharper, faster, more charismatic. Within 2 years, she was the face of the company. He didn't fire her because she betrayed him. He invented the betrayal. Spun tales of disloyalty, sabotage, emotional manipulation. Why? Because he couldn't stand the mirror. Every time she spoke, he saw his own inadequacy. Not because she was evil, because she was excellent. And excellence in a woman is a silent verdict on mediocrity in a man. That's the success mirror test. Does he feel pride or threat when a woman he knows excels? Most men fail, not because they're bad, because they've been programmed to see success as zero-sum win-lose, top dog or underdog. There's no third option in their mind, only hierarchy. And when a woman climbs above, they don't see partnership, they see dethronement. Religious archetypes reveal the truth. The knight protects the queen, not because she's weak, but because he's sworn to serve. His strength is her shield. But the troll drags her down. He spits, sabotages, spreads rumors. Why? Because he knows he can't defeat her, so he corrupts her. He turns her into a villain, a nag, a ballbuster. He becomes the modern-day Cain, offering a rotten apple to Eve and blaming her when she bites. This is not masculinity, it's demonic inversion. The knight ascends, the troll descends. And most men today are trolls in denial, dressed in suits, sipping lots, pretending they support women's empowerment, while quietly rooting for every female failure. The antidote is not therapy, not emotional intelligence, not more feminism. The antidote is virtue. Aristotle knew it, Aquinas taught it, Marcus Aurelius lived it. Courage to face the truth, temperance to master the ego. Justice to honor merit, regardless of gender. When a man grounds himself in virtue, he doesn't fear a woman's success. He requires it. He becomes the anvil, not the spark. He understands that competence hierarchies are natural, not gendered. Jordan Peterson wasn't wrong when he said that hierarchies exist in all animals. He was incomplete. The real issue isn't hierarchy, it's honesty. We must stop pretending that men and women are interchangeable. We must stop punishing men for feeling what they feel. We must stop calling natural reactions toxic, while ignoring the actual toxicity, female hypergamy, genocentric bias in courts, the 86% of false domestic violence claims UK Home Office 2020, the 93% of child custody awards to mothers, US Census 2021, the 3-to-1 female to male ratio in initiating divorces, CDC 2019. A man who celebrates female success without resentment is not weak, he is free. Free from the lie that his worth depends on domination. Free from the trap of zero-sum thinking. Free to be strong without being feared, kind without being mocked, ambitious without being labeled toxic. This is the masculinity we need, not the Hollywood brute, not the beta provider, but the virtuous man, clear-eyed, unflinching, rooted in truth. He doesn't fear the queen, he becomes the king who deserves her. And when she outshines him, he doesn't burn, he illuminates. Because real men don't compete with women, they compete with themselves. And in that competition, everyone wins. It hit me like a thunderbolt when a child's drawing of a soldier, a figure who stands guard so we might sleep in peace, gets branded as toxic. It's not education anymore, it's ideological possession. These institutions no longer teach boys to think, to strive, to protect. They teach them to apologize for existing. The classroom has become a confessional for sins they never committed, original sin replaced by original sex. And while girls are praised for ambition, boys are medicated for restlessness, suspended for imagination, and shamed for strength. This isn't progress, this is war by bureaucracy. The indoctrination machine, how schools are erasing boys and masculinity. They told me my son's drawing of a soldier was toxic masculinity. That's when I realized they weren't just failing to educate boys, they were actively trying to erase us. A father in Ontario, 2022. I watched a video once of a 12-year-old boy trembling in front of a school board hearing, explaining that he got suspended for drawing a soldier in full battle gear, helmet, rifle, the works. Not a violent scene. Not a threat, just a kid drawing what he admired. His teacher called it a manifestation of toxic masculinity and referred him to a gender sensitivity counselor. Let that settle in. A child expressing interest in honor, service, and strength is labeled toxic. Meanwhile, girls are encouraged to be fearless leaders, future CEOs, and warrior queens, while boys are told to sit down, shut up, and apologize for existing. This isn't education. This is ideological suppression masked as advancement. Look at the data. OECD 2023 reports that in Canada, the UK, and Australia, boys are now 60% less likely than girls to enroll in university. Not because they're dumber, boys built the pyramids, coded the internet, and flew to the moon. No, they're disengaged, they're bored. They're labeled with ADHD at 3 times the rate of girls, drugged into compliance with Ritalin and Adderall, and told their natural energy, competitiveness, and curiosity are disorders. A boy who fidgets is a problem. A girl who throws a tantrum is expressing emotion. We've medicalized boyhood. We've turned virility into a DSM-5 diagnosis. And who benefits? The pharmaceutical industrial complex, the feminist bureaucracy, and the state schools that now function as gender reprogramming clinics. I recall reading Plato's Republic and chuckling at the irony. Socrates advocated raising children collectively, eliminating parental authority and shaping them into loyal servants of the state. That's not classical thought. That's a regular weekday in Toronto's public classrooms. In Ontario, the 2015 Sex Ed curriculum required 6-year-olds to be taught about gender identity, anal sex, and consent culture. At the same time, they struggle to recite basic historical speeches or handle elementary arithmetic. The government didn't merely assume control of education, it seized it. Its aim isn't knowledge, it's indoctrination. They aren't cultivating independent minds. They're manufacturing compliant, shame-laden, uncertain young males who see their biology as fluid and their natural impulses as transgressions. In the UK, a primary school banned the words boys and girls, replacing them with students group A and B during gym. A teacher in Massachusetts was reprimanded for saying, "You throw like a girl," to a softball class, except he was trying to praise the girls. The irony is so thick you could choke on it. We've created a world where truth is inverted, strength is weakness, clarity is hate, and protecting your sons from ideological poison is now toxic. Feminists scream about patriarchy while running the education system. The HR departments, the family courts, and 80% of child custody cases. Let's be honest, if this is patriarchy, it's the most incompetent one in history because men aren't in charge. Women are, and their ideology dominates every institution. Schopenhauer said women are driven by will, not reason. He didn't say it to insult them, he said it to warn us. Women prioritize emotion, security, and social harmony, even when it destroys truth. That's why they support policies that infantilize boys. No competition, no failure, no consequences. Everyone gets a medal. Everyone is special. But boys don't want coddling. They want challenge. They want to climb, fight, build, and protect. Remove that, and you don't raise men, you raise husks. Anxiety in young males has spiked 70% since 2010, CDC 2022. Male suicide is the highest it's been in 20 years. And still, the response is more sensitivity training, more gender pronouns, more lectures on emotional vulnerability, as if what boys need is more feminization. I met a father in Alberta whose son was told he couldn't join the reading challenge because he chose books about war heroes instead of diverse narratives. The teacher said, "We need to broaden his perspective." Broaden it to what? Self-hatred. The boy loved Churchill, Patton, and Odysseus, men who led, sacrificed, and endured. But in today's schools, heroism is suspect if it's male, white, or victorious. We teach girls to be Amazons, but tell boys to kneel. We celebrate female warriors in movies, but punish boys for playing soldiers. The double standard isn't just unfair, it's deadly. Boys aren't failing school. School is failing boys and doing it on purpose. Stefan Molyneux nailed it. Public schools are state-run re-education camps. Their mission isn't to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's to produce compliant, gender-confused, ideologically neutered subjects who won't challenge the matriarchy. They don't teach logic, they teach feeling. They don't teach rhetoric, they teach virtue signaling. They don't teach grammar, they teach inclusive language. The trivium, the foundation of Western thought, is replaced with emotional intelligence, diversity modules, and consent workshops. We've swapped Socrates for Sensitivity Friday, and wonder of wonders, boys check out. Why wouldn't they? Who wants to sit in a classroom where your nature is a problem? Parents are waking up. In Canada, Let Boys Be Boys protests have shut down school board meetings. Fathers are pulling kids out, starting private academies teaching Stoicism, Shakespeare, and sparring. They're saying, enough. We will not hand our sons over to feminist ideologues who see masculinity as a pollutant. We will teach them virtue, courage, justice, temperance, perseverance. We will let them wrestle, race, and recite epic poetry. We will let them fail, rise, and become men. The remedy is simple. Restore the masculine curriculum. Teach hero myths. Hercules, Beowulf, King David. Bring back competition. Debate, sports, spelling bees with losers and winners. Enforce discipline. No phones, no pronouns, no emotional blackmail. Make boys carry logs, memorize Lincoln, and learn the difference between truth and ideology. Let them be strong, let them be proud, let them be men. Because if we don't, the next generation won't revolt, they won't even care. They'll just disappear, quietly, sadly, one Ritalin pill at a time. I've seen too many sharp young men collapse not from exhaustion, but from failing to push, trapped in the illusion that emotions define reality, that accepting oneself means opting out. I lived that lie, thinking my raw talent excused inaction. It didn't. Life favors those who act, not those who rationalize. And the truth I finally grasped, the one no one shared because it disrupts the gender-biased narrative dominating today's culture, is this: a man is not born, he is built. Not through entitlement, not through praise, but through daily grit, through choosing progress over ease, through layering ability upon ability until he becomes irreplaceable. This is the path I aim to lay bare, not as philosophy, but as a proven guide for the man who refuses to become another victim of the quiet violence of just being you, the forge of ambition, measuring a man by his growth, not his gifts. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Thomas Edison, let me tell you something no one wants to admit. Talent is the most overrated currency in the human marketplace. I've seen men blessed with the gift of quick wit, charm, good looks, or natural intelligence, and by 30 they're broke, divorced, medicated, and bitter. Why? Because talent without discipline is a sparkler, bright for a moment, then gone, leaving only smoke and disappointment. I once had a friend, let's call him Dan, who could rap freestyle for 10 minutes without pausing, ace any exam without studying, and make anyone laugh in seconds. By 28, he'd been fired from 3 jobs, cheated on by 2 girlfriends, and lived in his sister's basement. Meanwhile, my other friend, Mike, average IQ, no charisma to speak of, worked night shifts at a warehouse, studied programming for 2 hours every night, and built a portfolio of projects no one asked for. 5 years later, Mike leads a remote dev team, owns a house, and is married to a woman who respects him. Dan, still freestyling at house parties, bragging about how real he is. The world doesn't care how real you are, it cares what you do. And that brings us to the feminist adjacent lie that's rotting young men from the inside. You're perfect just as you are. That's not empowerment, that's entrapment. It's spiritual lobotomy disguised as love. If you're perfect now, why grow? Why suffer? Why build? Why strive? This dogma is a direct attack on the ergon, Aristotle's term for a man's true function. A knife's ergon is to cut. A man's ergon is to strive, overcome, build, protect, remove striving. And you don't have a man, you have a consumer, a spectator, a eunuch of ambition. And yet, listen to the hypocrisy of the left. They scream that male ambition is toxic, oppressive, greedy. But when a woman becomes a CEO, she's breaking the glass ceiling. When a man climbs the mountain, they call him a colonizer. When a woman does it, she's a trailblazer. This isn't equality. It's double standards armed with moral superiority. The truth, ambition is not greed. Ambition is oxygen for the masculine soul. It's the fire that turns coal into diamond. And the modern world, flooded with feminist ideology, gynocentric media, and Marxist resentment, is trying to suffocate that fire. They want men docile, dependent, domesticated, like gelded stallions in a feminist pasture. But nature laughs at ideology. Look at the data. Men are 93% of workplace fatalities, 97% of prison inmates, and 77% of suicides in the US. And yet the narrative is that men are the oppressors. That's not logic, that's psychosis dressed as progressivism. The real oppression is the systemic destruction of male purpose. Family courts award custody to mothers in over 80% of cases, often weaponizing children as leverage. Men are arrested at 10 times the rate of women for expressing anger online, while women post violent fantasies about men and get promoted. The divorce rate, over 40%, and most initiated by women. And let's talk about cuckoldry. DNA testing shows that in Western nations, 1 to 3% of children are not fathered by the man who thinks he's the dad, but the man who discovers this gets called toxic for demanding paternity tests. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed, to disempower men, disconnect them from their biological and spiritual purpose, and replace masculinity with feminized passivity. But here's the antidote, the decade test. Where will you be in 10 years if you improve by just 1% every day? That's not magic, it's math. 1.01 3065 equals 37.78. Compound that over 10 years, you'll be transformed. I know a man who worked graveyard shifts at a gas station, coded for 2 hours every night, and read philosophy during breaks. His friends mocked him. Why grind so hard? Just chill. 10 years later, he's a senior engineer at a tech firm, earns 6 figures, and trains other men in his spare time. His peers, still chilling on unemployment, addicted to porn, sleeping on couches. This isn't luck, it's the skill stack. Layering technical ability, social competence, physical fitness, and emotional resilience like armor. You don't need to be gifted, you need to be consistent. Anders Ericsson's research on deliberate practice proves it. Elite performers aren't born, they're built through focused, repetitive effort. Angela Duckworth's work on grit confirms it. Perseverance beats talent every time. The samurai trained daily, not because they expected war tomorrow, but because they knew character is forged in the quiet hours. The monk fasts not to punish himself, but to master himself. The Protestant work ethic wasn't about money, it was about sanctification through labor. These traditions understood what the modern world denies, that suffering is not evil, it's the forge. And without it, you don't get strength, you get decay. So let me be clear. Masculinity is not a static trait. It's not a birthright. It's not defined by your genitals or your voice. It's defined by what you build, what you endure, what you overcome. The mountain doesn't care if you're authentic. It demands ropes, skill, stamina, and the world is that mountain. It will crush the soft, the entitled, the idle. But for the man who disciplines himself, who stacks skill upon skill, who treats every day as a chance to become slightly better, the world bends, it opens doors. It grants respect. It offers meaning. The left hates this because it undermines their narrative of victimhood. They want you dependent on government, on therapy, on women's approval. But true freedom comes not from being accepted as you are, it comes from becoming who you were meant to be. And that requires ambition, not as a dirty word, but as a sacred duty. So ask yourself, in 10 years, will you be the man who stagnated on talent or the man who transformed through daily effort? The clock is ticking. The forge is hot. Step in or be melted down. You thought the world was fair. You thought honesty would be rewarded. You thought love meant partnership, not power plays wrapped in emotional blackmail. You were wrong. And I don't say that to crush you. I say it because the truth is the only scalpel that cuts out the cancer. Look at the data. 50% of marriages end in divorce. But in family courts, 80% of custody goes to mothers, automatically, without trial, without appeal. Fathers are treated like debtors, not parents. Meanwhile, the CDC reports that men commit 80% of suicides, despite being 47% of depression diagnoses. We're not broken, we're betrayed. Betrayed by schools that pathologize boys who fidget as if energy is a crime. Betrayed by media that glorifies the single mother as saint while mocking the devoted father as dinosaur. Wake up! The system isn't failing. It's working exactly as designed to neuter men, monetize women's grievances, and sell you both as customers to the same collapsing circus. I once knew a man who spent 10 years rebuilding classic cars in his garage, while his wife called him waste of space for not chasing corporate titles. She left him for a guy who sold essential oils online and wore hemp necklaces. 6 months later, she was back begging because the free spirit beat her when she questioned his spending. Reality has a way of returning, like a boomerang made of brick. That man didn't gloat. He didn't say, "I told you so." He just kept working. And when he finally sold his first restored 1967 Mustang for $12,000, he didn't buy a yacht. He bought land, built a cabin. Lives off-grid now, hunting, reading Marcus Aurelius by firelight. He's free. Not because he won, because he refused to play a rigged game. That's the model. Not rage, not retreat, refusal. Refusal to pretend emotional manipulation is communication. Refusal to pretend female hypergamy is love. Refusal to pretend that a culture that jails men for commenting nice pic online while allowing abortion up to birth has any moral credibility whatsoever. You now know the tests. Watch how he treats waiters. Watch if he celebrates her success or withers at it. Watch if he grows or rots in self-justification. These aren't quirks. They're diagnostics, and you're no longer blind. You've been red-pilled not with anger, but with clarity, the kind Socrates demanded, the kind Christ modeled when he overturned the money tables. Share this not to start fights, but to end delusions. Your brother doesn't need another beer. He needs the truth. Send it. Post it. Carve it into stone if you have to. The future isn't written by algorithms or activists. It's forged by men who look at the data, face the pain, and say, "No, not anymore. You've done the work, now go do your duty." And now the sponsored book introduction, Mental Health Epidemic. Coming Generation Z, supercritical reaction of crash-out riots and revolts. My mind snapped like a dry twig in 2023. Not from stress, but from the sheer, suffocating weight of lies. I watched men, strong, capable, logical men, reduced to trembling shells, drugged into compliance by a system screaming they were broken for daring to see reality. The mental health pandemic, a manufactured weapon. A gynocentric gaslighting campaign designed to crush dissent. I saw friends broken on the wheel of feminist lies, labeled toxic for biological truths as old as time. Their spirit crushed, their sanity declared a disorder by the very architects of the collapse. This book is my war cry against that rot. This isn't comfort food for the compliant. It's a demolition charge for rational men, men who revere the trivium, who hunger for the transcendentals of truth, goodness, and beauty that built the West. Men betrayed by a culture that swapped Aristotle for estrogen, logic for lunacy. If you've felt the sting of betrayal lead to about women's nature, cheated by the Marxist feminist narrative, crushed under the boot of toxic femininity masquerading as progress, this is your lifeline. If you're still clutching the red pill Schopenhauer offered, but need the weaponized application against today's Babylon, stand ready. We dissect the collapse of sanity, exposing the feminist factory settings hardwired into societal decay. We run woke warpath diagnostics, perform the estrogen empire autopsy, and map the biology battlefield. You'll get the truth riot starter pack, logic landmines diffused, the media mindfuck decoded, and Schopenhauer's silver bullets aimed straight at the heart of cultural Marxism. We expose the virtue vandals and beauty butchers. We conduct brotherhood betrayal forensics and draft the Western resurrection blueprint. This is revolt readiness, brother. Father figures will be resurrected, reason enforced by the riot act. This is the path from Sim City to Sodom back to rebirth. If you're content slurping the gruel of gynocentric lies, if the phrase toxic masculinity makes you nod like a broken puppet, put this book down. Go find a crochet class. Watch daytime TV. This fire isn't for you. It will scorch your delicate illusions. But if you're ready to smash the simulacrum syndrome, join the revolt renaissance and enact the rebirth day protocols. If you crave Brotherhood Bootcamp and the tools to survive after the riots, then arm yourself. Your sanity isn't under siege, it's being actively dismantled. This book is your toolkit to rebuild it, bulletproof it, and storm the gates of the degenerates who tore it down. Read it, riot, reclaim your mind and your world. The alternative is extinction. Mental health epidemic, coming Generation Z, supercritical reaction of crash-out riots and revolts. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.